Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're going to be looking at the biggest tech and business news from February 22nd, 2025.
Sounds good.
We've got fitness innovations, some serious market growth, and even a sneak peek at what the future of recruiting might look like.
Let's dive right in.
All right, so first up, JEM Wellness Brands, the folks behind Crunch Fitness, are doing something interesting in Milwaukee.
Oh, yeah, what's that?
They're mixing traditional workouts with data analysis and scientific assessments.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's all part of their Heartstrong and Spring Break Ready program.
So they're trying to personalize the fitness experience, you think?
I think so, yeah. I mean, using data to tailor workouts to individual needs is pretty cool.
Definitely, but makes you think about data privacy too, right? All that personal info.
Oh, yeah, for sure. For sure. Huge implications there. Okay, but moving on, let's talk about some market trends.
Okay.
So the 3D ceramic printer market, get this, it's projected to reach $12.7 billion by 2032.
Wow, that's a massive number.
It is, and it shows just how much demand there is for this tech, especially in aerospace and healthcare, even electronics.
Yeah, 3D ceramic printing, it's really changing the game in terms of precision and customization.
Absolutely, and that's not the only market that's booming. The IoT testing market is also seeing crazy growth.
Not surprising with the way everything's getting connected these days.
Right, exactly. I mean, a CAGR of 32.6%, that's huge.
Yeah, I mean, think about it with all these connected devices, security reliability testing is all more important than ever.
Makes sense. So all this connectivity, it's creating jobs too, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
There's this AI hiring startup in San Francisco, Mercor. They just got $100 million in Series B funding.
Wow, so they're valued at what, $2 billion now?
Yeah, pretty impressive, right? They're using AI to streamline the entire hiring process from screening candidates to predicting job success.
It's definitely efficient, but it also raises questions about, the role of humans in hiring.
Right? Is AI going to replace human intuition entirely, or is there always going to be a need for that human touch?
Good question. I think even with all the advancements in AI, there are some things that just require human understanding, like soft skills, cultural fit. Those are hard to measure with algorithms.
Okay. You're probably right. All right. Let's switch gears a bit and talk about Web3.
Okay.
So Chainlink, they're making some big moves with their build and scale programs. They're all about fostering new decentralized technologies.
It's great to see companies investing in Web3 like this. It's still early days, but the potential is huge.
Definitely Web3, it's all about shifting the power back to the users, right? Giving them more control over their data and online identity.
Exactly, and we're already seeing some interesting applications in finance, gaming, supply chain management.
Yeah, it's a whole new way of interacting with the internet.
Totally, and who knows what other innovations will emerge in the coming years.
Okay, but before we get too far ahead of ourselves, let's bring it back to the present. Apple hasn't officially said anything yet, but the rumor mill is already turning about the iPhone 16e and the iPhone 16 potentially coming out next year.
Ah, the iPhone rumor mill never disappoints.
Right, so what are we hearing so far?
Well, the iPhone 16e is rumored to be like a budget-friendly option, maybe with a smaller screen and fewer bells and whistles than the flagship model.
Makes sense. Apple's probably trying to reach a wider market with that one.
Probably. As for the iPhone 16 itself, early rumors suggest some big camera upgrades, maybe even better computational photography than what we have now.
Ooh, that's exciting. What about the processor? Any word on that?
Supposedly it'll be the next generation A-series chip, maybe the A18 Bionic, faster, more efficient, the drill.
So basically, the iPhone 16 is going to be a beefed.
It's looking that way, and of course there are whispers about design changes, but those are usually kept under wraps until much closer to launch.
Well, I guess we'll have to wait and see, but it's always fun to speculate, right? It's a good reminder that technology, it's always pushing forward, always evolving.
Absolutely, and that's what makes it so exciting.
For sure, but I think it's also important to step back and consider, the impact of all this technology on people and society.
You're right. It's not just about the cool new gadgets. It's about how technology shapes our lives and our future.
Exactly, and I think that's a perfect segue into our next segment where we'll dig a little deeper into these ideas.
Sounds good. Let's take a quick pause and then we'll come back and unpack all of this a bit more. Welcome back to the deep dive.
So you were saying before the break that 3D ceramic printing is revolutionizing manufacturing in a bunch of different sectors.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing stuff.
What are some specific examples?
We'll take the aerospace industry. They're using it to create these super lightweight but durable parts for aircraft engines.
Oh, wow. So it's really high-tech stuff.
Yeah, and it's not just aerospace and healthcare. They're using 3D ceramic printing to make custom prosthetics and implants, even biocompatible scaffolds for tissue engineering.
That's incredible. So it's improving people's lives in a very real way.
Exactly. And then you've got the electronics industry using it to make intricate circuits and sensors.
So it's impacting every corner of manufacturing.
Pretty much, it's changing the way we think about design and production.
Okay, so we talked about the growth of the IoT testing market, but what does that actually mean for businesses and consumers?
Well, for businesses, the biggest challenge is security, right? I mean, with so many devices connected, the potential for cyber attacks is huge.
So they need to make sure their systems are like bulletproof.
Exactly, and that's where IoT testing comes in. They need to make sure everything's secure and reliable.
Makes sense. And what about consumers? How does this affect them?
Well, on the one hand, it's all about convenience, right? Smart homes, wearable tech, it's all super cool, makes life easier. But there's also the issue of privacy. All these devices collecting data, it's something consumers need to be aware of.
So it's a trade-off, convenience versus privacy.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it.
Okay, let's get back to AI-powered recruitment. You mentioned that Mercor's platform is using AI to automate a lot of the hiring process.
Right, they're using algorithms to sift through resumes, identify potential candidates, even analyze interviews.
So how does that actually work?
Well, the algorithms can analyze tons of data, like way more than a human could ever process.
So it's super efficient.
Yeah, and it can help reduce bias because it's not relying on human gut feelings.
But couldn't AI also introduce new biases?
That's a possibility. If the data sets used to train the algorithms are biased, then the AI will be biased too.
So it's like a garbage in, garbage out kind of thing.
Exactly. That's why it's so important to make sure the AI is developed responsibly and ethically.
And what about the human element in all of this? Will AI ever completely replace human recruiters?
I don't think so, at least not anytime soon. There's still a need for human judgment, especially when it comes to things like soft skills and cultural fit.
Okay, so it's more about AI augmenting human capabilities rather than replacing them.
Right? It's about using AI to make the hiring process more efficient and fair, but still keeping humans in the loop.
Speaking of fairness, we talked about Web3 and its potential to democratize access to various services.
Yeah, Web3 is all about empowering users, giving them more control over their data and their online experiences.
So how is that playing out in different industries?
Well, in finance, for example, Web3 is enabling decentralized finance platforms where people can access financial services without going through a traditional institution.
So it's like cutting out the middleman.
Exactly. And in gaming, Web3 is allowing players to actually own their in-game assets and trade them freely.
That's a huge change from the way things work now.
And then there's supply chain management. Web3 can be used to track products from origin to destination, which increases transparency and reduces fraud.
Wow, so Web3 is really having an impact on the real world.
Oh yeah, it's not just a digital thing. It's changing the way we interact with the physical world, too.
Okay, so back to the iPhone rumors. You mentioned that the iPhone 16e might be a more affordable option.
Yeah, it's probably going to have some compromises, like a smaller screen, maybe not all the camera features of the flagship model.
But you think it'll still have a decent camera?
I would bet on it. Apple's known for its cameras. I doubt they'd release a phone with a bad camera, even a budget-friendly one.
And what about the iPhone 16? What are we hearing about that one?
Well, the camera's supposed to be a big upgrade, maybe a larger sensor, high resolution, and definitely some new computational photography tricks.
Sounds impressive. What about the processor?
Probably the A18 Bionic, faster, more efficient, the usual stuff.
So basically, the iPhone 16 is going to be a powerhouse.
Yeah, it's shaping up to be a pretty impressive device.
Any word on the design?
Not much yet. Apple keeps those things pretty secret.
Well, I guess we'll just have to wait and see, but it's fun to speculate.
For sure, but I think it's also important to remember that technology is more than just cool gadgets.
Right, it's about how technology affects us as individuals and as a society.
Exactly. We need to think about the ethical implications, the impact on our lives and our future.
Absolutely. Well, let's take a quick break, and then we'll come back and wrap up our discussion with some final thoughts. Right, so we've talked about a lot of really cool technology today, from 3D printing to Web3 to the new iPhone rumors.
Yeah, it's amazing how quickly things are changing.
Definitely. So as we wrap up, I wanted to circle back to something you mentioned earlier about responsible AI development, especially when it comes to hiring.
Oh yeah, that's a really important issue.
So how do we make sure that AI is used ethically and fairly in this context?
Well, I think transparency is key. Companies need to be open about how their AI systems work, what data they're using, how decisions are being made.
So it's about being accountable.
Exactly. And it's also important to have human oversight. AI can be a great tool, but it shouldn't be making all the decisions.
Right. It's about finding that balance between AI and human judgment.
Exactly. AI can help us be more efficient and objective, but we still need that human element in the hiring process.
Makes sense. Now, switching gears a bit, we talked about Web3 and all the opportunities it presents, but what are some of the challenges people and businesses need to be aware of?
Well, I think one challenge is just understanding how Web3 works. It's a whole new way of thinking about the internet.
So there's a learning curve.
Definitely, people need to educate themselves about blockchain, decentralized finance, all that stuff.
And what about for businesses?
I think the biggest challenge for businesses is navigating the regulatory landscape. The rules around Web3 are still being developed, which can create a lot of uncertainty.
So it's a bit of a Wild West right now.
Kind of, but it's also a really exciting time to be involved in Web3. There's so much potential for innovation.
Absolutely. So as we wrap up here, what's one key takeaway you would leave our listeners with?
I would say embrace curiosity. Technology is constantly changing, so be willing to learn and adapt, explore new ideas. Don't be afraid to challenge the status quo.
Great advice. So stay curious, stay informed, and thanks for joining us on the Deep Dive.